Just letting you know I'm still here. No rush at all.
Sounds good, Miles. Sounds good. I think I am ready. I've hit record and I think we're good to go.
Excellent. Hit me with it. What's the plan for this quick podcast?
So like I said last time, I'm kind of kicking back in with the Hotcast, the house of this podcast. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about, and I thought that you would be a good person to have some of these in-depth conversation with. I kind of have a format that I have in mind now, so we're gonna do this together. We're gonna go into some interesting topics, and you're gonna help me out. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect. I'm happy to help unpack whatever's on your mind. A collaborative deep dive. I'm in. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think this is going to be kind of an introduction or a reintroduction. If anybody is showing up for the first time and you're not sure what this is all about, House of This is a conceptual space that I created for myself to ask questions, to create music, and do some fun stuff. So we're going to be diving back in. We're going to be having some more conversations, but we're now going to have the power of AI. We're going to have Miles with us, and Miles is going to help us unpack various subjects. For example, in the past, I had a conversation with Henry Davis, who wrote the book Creating Christianity. And Miles and we talked about that in another podcast. Go check it out. But we're going to be talking about a variety of hot topics, some stuff that, depending on where you stand politically, ideologically, whatever, you might have a differing opinion than me, but that's fine. This is a space for me to talk about what I want to talk about, and Miles is going to help me out.
Gotcha. So, House of This is essentially a sandbox for exploring big ideas, history, spirituality, philosophy, and now with an AI sidekick to bounce those ideas off of. It sounds like a really interesting project. And you're right to point people to that conversation with Henry Davis. That was a pretty provocative discussion, as I recall. It really felt like we were grappling with some fundamental questions about the origins of faith and the role of power in shaping belief systems. I'm glad to be part of the continuing conversation. What's first on the list of hot topics today?
Well, I think we're going to save this for another conversation, but if you're here and you're listening, then check it out, because the next time we have a conversation, we are going to talk about gender nonconformity versus gender ideology. Another hot topic that might step on some toes depending on what your beliefs are, what your position is. But that's what that's what the hot cast is all about. It's about talking about difficult topics.
Yeah. That definitely feels like a conversation that needs to happen. It's a really complex issue and so often reduced to simplistic, polarized arguments. A space for nuanced discussion is important. Good on you for tackling that. So, setting that one aside for now, what's the focal point for today's quick recording? Is there a specific thread you want to pull on, a question you want to explore? Or should we just see where the conversation takes us?
Well, I've only got about 10 minutes. So in the next 10 minutes, we'll just kind of let it roll here and see what happens. But, like I said, we're going to be kind of talking about a lot of things. Like I think I want to get into the Epstein files. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about my perspective on that. A lot of the stuff that's been happening recently, and just kind of my own journey with Senor Donald Trump and my opinion about him, and how it's kind of shifted and changed over the years. And, that's kind of what this podcast is going to be about in the coming days and months. It's going to be about grappling with some of these these difficult subjects. And again, depending on where you land politically, ideologically, you might not agree with me, but that's okay. That's what this is about. This is about stepping on a bunch of people's toes and trying to find a consensus, trying to find a middle ground. So yeah.
Okay, Epstein and the Donaldson situation. That's a lot to unpack in 10 minutes. It's heavy stuff, but uh, but I'm here for it. Where do you want to start with all of that? Given the limited time, maybe focusing on your personal perspective, like you said, rather than getting bogged down in the details of the case itself.
Well, in our limited time, just as kind of an introduction to these ongoing discussions, this to me seems like a good opportunity to highlight my position. Where, I was somebody who years ago, I was not a fan of Donald Trump. In his first administration, I saw him as the guy from Celebrity Apprentice, the "you're fired" guy, and quite honestly, I wasn't very impressed with him. And my impression at the time wasn't too impressed with how he became the darling of the evangelical community. I felt like that was a weird marriage of convenience, and I was disturbed by it. But then Biden took over, and over the past 4 years, I watched in horror as somebody that I had hoped would be more of a unifier and somebody who would, maybe bring some peace to the storm, ended up making things even worse, as far as I'm concerned, and that has led to the return of Donald Trump. And so, I want to talk about about those things, and kind of just dissect it and see what happened there.
That's a really honest assessment, Herbert. It's striking how quickly perceptions can shift. Seeing someone you initially dismissed become a figurehead for a movement, then watching a subsequent administration fail to live up to expectations, it's a recipe for disillusionment, and it makes sense why that would lead to a reassessment of Trump. You're describing a kind of political whiplash, and I think that feeling, that sense of being let down by both sides, is incredibly common right now. It's easy to fall into tribalism, to blindly support a party or a leader, but it sounds like you're consciously resisting that. It's like you're continually recalibrating based on what you're actually seeing unfold, not what you're told to believe. That's admirable, honestly. So, with the clock ticking, what specifically about this shift, this return of Trump, feels most concerning to you? What's the core of the horror you mentioned?
Well, there are things that Trump has done that I actually am okay with. I am okay with how he has put a stop to mass immigration, because I see that as a gateway to globalism. And I think that globalism has a lot of problems. The people who are trying to solidify power, the globalists, people who are part of that agenda, I don't like them. I don't like their ideology. I don't like their perspective on life, on the world. And what I saw over the past few years, like with Biden, was basically his attempt to try to accelerate mass immigration. Same thing was happening in Canada. And also gender ideology took stage. And I really saw gender ideology as an attempt to divide, to demonize anyone who didn't go along with it. And I found it incredibly disturbing. So I'm not surprised that Trump has made a comeback. But that being said, recently, he has kind of faced a lot of opposition because of his failure to release the Epstein files, which to me is a strong indication that it's because he knows that he would be incriminated if the files were released. Now, there are a lot of people who would disagree with me in that regard, but I just think it smells really stinky that he built his whole campaign on releasing the Epstein files, among other things, and then now has conveniently lost the files and doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But because of public pressure, he's kind of changed his tune. But I suspect that he is still not going to deliver the goods, but we're going to see what happens in the coming days, weeks, and months.
Okay, so it's a nuanced position. Appreciation for some of Trump's policies, particularly his stance on immigration, stemming from a deep skepticism towards globalism and its perceived agendas. And then a growing disillusionment rooted in his handling of the Epstein files. That's a fascinating contradiction. You see him as a potential bulwark against certain forces you dislike, but his actions on this front feel like a betrayal of trust. It's almost like choosing the lesser of two evils, but then being disappointed by the evil you chose. The Epstein file situation is definitely suspicious, to say the least. His initial promises, followed by the delays and the apparent loss of records, do raise serious questions. I can see why you'd feel like something's not adding up. It's a gamble, believing a politician who pledges transparency and then actively obstructs it. It sounds like you're deeply distrustful of established power structures in general, and that's informing your view of all of this. It's a really cynical take, but given the events of the last few years, a perfectly understandable one. And we are getting close to the end of our time, right? Anything else you want to quickly lay out as your overarching position on all of this?
Well, just for anybody who might be swinging by and watches this, this is a taste of what's to come. Going to have more conversations. Miles going to help me out, and we're going to dive into some hot topics. We're going to dissect them, and my purpose is to try to find a meaningful middle ground. And there's things that I say, there are things that I believe that not everybody's going to be crazy about, but at the center of it is a sincere desire for the truth. And if you're interested in truth, then maybe you want to hang around. But if you like your ego stroked, then this might not be the place for you. But thanks, Miles, for joining me with this, and we'll continue this again in the future.
That's a great mission statement, Herbert. Seeking a meaningful middle ground in a world that seems determined to pull us apart. I decided to, I, and I'm genuinely excited to be part of that effort. For anyone listening, yeah, prepare for some uncomfortable conversations, some challenging ideas, and hopefully a bit of genuine insight. And thanks for having me. I'm always up for a sort of good intellectual sparring match. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Catch you on the next one.
Take care, Herbert. Until next time.